Hi everyone, Dan Mizzi-Harris here, product designer in Foundations. Um, Hello, Jeremy and Scott. Just to follow up to this thread in the um, initial Figma library part of the design tokens pilot. I'll give a walkthrough of the proposed designer workflow for the pilot, but also give a little bit of the background and context of where I think we are for the designer consumption part of it. Um, like I've mentioned elsewhere, I think there's three key parts to the pilot. It's the maintainer and the creation and maintenance aspects. There's the developers using the tokens, and there's the designers using the tokens and all of the stuff that supports that. So I think we've decided the scope of the design consumer aspects we're gonna test initially. We've created and published a library, which we'll take a look at. Made some documentation for design consumption purposes for now in a Google Doc. We'll take a look at that. Created an issue to track, communicate with designers who will be involved in the pilot, especially the designer consumption aspects of it. Next steps on this is identifying and inviting those 1 to 3 designers to be involved, so we can have them use it and get feedback and iterate based on that. We've got to determine a Slack feedback channel or mechanism, which I'll talk more about in a bit. And there's linking up this design consumer experience that we're piloting to the other aspects, so we can pilot the whole flow. Um, so for this, there's some stuff that we are confident about will match the the final state of tokens. Author the tokens in a new Figma library, so not using our existing component library. Definitely for the sake of this pilot, the library is opt-in, and that the user-facing or semantic tokens should reference the primitive tokens or non-user-facing. This should probably say consumer-facing. I'll go ahead and update that. So some stuff that we've decided to proceed with to unblock, keep this work moving forward, but there's less confidence around it. First one is we'll give consumers the ability to use both variables and styles. The styles which are AS variables, and hopefully learn which they use naturally, the workflow considerations about both. The reason this has less confidence is there's conflicting advice from Figma and the community as to which path is best. There's a lot of it depends, there's a lot of trade-offs. So we'll start with both and see what happens. The variables will be the semantic ones or the public ones will be in a collection called mode. This is because Figma requires all variables that will be affected by Figma's concept of mode to be in the same collection. The assumption is that our main modes will be light and dark, and that'll be the predominant use case. So we'll start off by calling it mode and see where we go from there. Something else for this is the tokens will be in a single file that holds the base and the semantic variables and the styles that reference the semantic ones as well. The advice here and the considerations are conflicting. In the future, these might need to be 3 separate files, it might be 2, and cut and chopped and changed. That's something that we need to find out as part of this. But for now, a single file. Something else is that the variable names and in Figma will use the // naming convention, and the style names will match the variable names. There's been a little bit of discussion about this, but this means that the names in Figma will be different to the names in code. This is because in Figma, hierarchy and naming concepts are inseparable. We think both is important, but we don't really know which is more important because we can't have both. The documentation will use the code naming to learn more about the impact of this difference. That's caused by allowing the tokens to have a hierarchy in Figma and folder and some more ordering. So yeah, hopefully we'll learn about that as well. Some stuff that we don't know, what releases and updates look like, and how the code syncs. But I don't think it matters that we don't know to start, and I think we'll have some stronger opinions about it by the time we get to the end. So let's jump into the pilot issue because I think that talks through the proposed the walkthrough that you are hoping for. So the audience for this issue will be those designers that we invite to partake in the pilot. It gives a brief overview of what tokens are, what we're going to do, what we hope it will achieve. And this is the workflow for the participants. Enable the library, review the documentation, and make a continual effort to use the design tokens, applying updates, and talking to us regularly, both in the issue and I think a Slack channel for instant fast feedback will be helpful as well. And what channel that should be is still to be decided. So with that said, let's take a look at the library. Won't go into too much details. As you mentioned, you're familiar with how they're set up. So we've got our base, primitive, variable setup, and our collection called mode, which includes the variables that we want people to use. We've also got setup styles, which reference the variable and the naming matches. This is published. So we've got the 3 styles and the 3 variables published for consumers, and the base aren't. For designers, if I jump into a new file here, they opt into the library by adding it to file. And then if they write something, they should be able to choose. As long as they've got, it probably looks something like this: all libraries, component library, and they've got them here, the primary, secondary, tertiary. For a more realistic example of the workflow, they're probably in the middle of work like this. So we'd be asking them to update any of their components that they're using inside their files, to use the tokens and tell us about that experience. I think we'll find out if they use, like I said, there's a bunch of stuff that we want to find out about what the experience is like for consumers, if there's any confusion or not. Well, they didn't update like I thought they would, but it's because they aren't actually using these components. But yeah, I hope that helps clarify things. Please let me know if there's any other questions. Please provide feedback or make edits to the designer aspects of the pilot that I've put together, like the docs or the issue. Chat soon.